Welcome to the Invention Stories podcast, where we share stories of inventors who turn their idea into a product. Please visit our website at www.inventionstories.com. And now, from the Invention Stories podcast World Headquarters Studios in Morro Bay, California, is our host, Robert Baer.
Welcome to the Invention Stories podcast, brought to you by the Socket Saver. My name is Robert Baer, and thank you for joining us. You're listening to episode 36 of the Invention Stories podcast, our interview with Gina Waldhorn, the President of Quirky. Quirky is a community-led invention platform that brings real people's ideas to life. Quirky makes inventing and selling products possible by pairing inventors with product designers and big manufacturing companies. Quirky Inc. was launched in 2009 by Ben Kaufman. Through its collaborative platform, Quirky managed to bring in more than 150 consumer products to market. In 2015, the focus of Quirky was to develop the Internet of Things through its own line of connected home products and its own running platform, Wink. Things did not go as planned, and Quirky, after selling Wink, filed for bankruptcy in 2015. In December 2015, most of the assets of Quirky Inc. were bought by Q Holdings, a group of experienced investors and entrepreneurs that have been successful at developing, marketing, licensing brands, and manufacturing a wide range of products for retail. Today, Quirky is under the leadership of their president, Gina Waldhorn, who joined the team at the beginning of 2017. We now have Gina on the line from New York City, so let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Gina. I'd like to start off by asking you a little bit about your background. What were your interests growing up?
Absolutely. So growing up, I'm a very active, very competitive person. So growing up, I was very into sports. I loved drama. I love anything animals. I grew up in Florida, so I actually doing water sports and swimming and activities like that. I love the warm weather. And actually, as it relates to kind of inventing and myself growing up, my dad is a bit of an entrepreneur. He's run a auto repair store that he started himself, and he's run it for over 40 years. And I actually used to help him out a lot in the shop when I was younger, when I'm 9, 10 years old, coming up with kind of creative promotions or ideas for his business. And I had a lot of fun with that. And my dad himself is an amateur inventor. He rides motorcycles. He's kind of a biker dude. And he's tinkered around and invented some bike accessories, in his past, and still likes to tinker today.
Nice. That takes care of my second question, was if you knew any inventors. But no, that's great that your dad was an inventor.
And actually, I'd also add, if you ask my brother, he will tell you that he invented Pert Plus, the shampoo and conditioner in one, because he swears when he was 3 and 4 years old, around, in the early 80s, that he was combining the shampoo and conditioner into one bottle, and he would insist that my mom did it at once, and Pert Plus didn't come out until the mid to late 80s. So he feels very strongly that he got shafted as the original inventor of the first all-in-one shampoo and conditioner. So at least the idea and the inspiration for wanting to be an inventor seems to run in the family.
Well, there's a lesson there. He needed to patent his idea, but did school come pretty easy to you? Were you a good student?
Yeah, I was. I enjoyed school. I love learning. If I could spend half my time always in school and the other half working for a living, I'd love to do that. So I really did enjoy school. And I went to college specifically at undergrad to focus on advertising. And I did that because I loved, I mentioned growing up, I did a lot of drama. I really loved storytelling. And I've always been romanced by the idea of how to make products sexy, and the drama of the art of persuasion was always something I very much enjoyed and found that I was pretty good at. So kind of combining those things, and especially when I started really pursuing advertising was, the late 90s, early 2000s, it was still a viable industry, and it still had some of that Madison Avenue glow to it. Digital hadn't quite come in and dropped a bomb in the middle of everything advertising. So I pursued that route of how to pitch products and how to make products sexy through, advertising and creative. And FSU had a specific advertising track. So it was a great option for me, being a Floridian who also happened to have a Florida prepaid scholarship that said I had to go to school in Florida. So it was a win-win.
Nice. And it looked like you went for your master's degree at Emerson College. Is that in Boston?
It is, yep, right on Boston Common.
And that must have been a really interesting experience. Everybody's who's gone to college goes to a different place, but you went right there in the heart of, well, I don't know Boston that well. But you went to school in Boston instead of a little college town.
As a Florida, exactly. It was completely different. FSU it's weird. If you see a baby or anyone over 20 years old, you kind of look at them and give them a weird look, like, what are they even doing in this city? Whereas, as you said, Emerson is smack in the middle of kind of the cultural epicenter of downtown Boston. And the program that I was accepted into is a program called Global Marketing, Communications, and Advertising. And it really had an intense focus on the global perspective of product launches and advertising and PR in a very connected world. And it was a very intense program. It was only 1 year. So, I'd go to school for 6-7 hours a day and then come home with 6-7 hours of program. So you did 2 years worth of credit, the traditional master's, in 1 year. And it was a very small class, so only 60 students around there were accepted. And there were really only about 5 to 10 Americans accepted. And the rest were from all over the world. So it was a really fascinating program to get to meet interesting people from all over the globe, all who had a passion and an interest in the future of marketing and communications.
Are you done going to college, or do you see yourself getting your PhD?
I would love to go back. I don't know what for. It would probably be for something completely outside of what I do on a day-to-day. Maybe philosophy, or I'd love to pursue more academia in a completely separate vertical than what I actually spend my time on today as a job, but we'll see.
All right. Did you go straight to evaluation?
Yeah, it's a funny name. So you just pronounce it evolution. It's a funny story of why it's such a wacky name, which I will get to. But no, I actually started my career at agencies. So, I really wanted to work in a Don Draper style ad agency. So right out of college, I was an intern at, one of the world's biggest creative agencies, BBDO. And then I found myself very interested in digital, and really, around the early 2000s again is when digital started to really start creeping in and disrupting advertising as we know it. So I took my first job at a big media agency called Carat, or Carat if you're in Europe, where they're founded. And that's, a global ad agency doing media buying and digital strategy. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I worked for another agency called Group M, which is the world's largest media buying agency, working on global strategy for brands like Unilever and UPS. And then I left the agency world to start Evolution with a co-founder because I felt like there was a missed opportunity in advertising for big brands to connect with early stage startups and early stage technologies to provide true value and utility to their consumer base, ultimately building their business. So instead of going and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on Wall Street Journal or print ads or TV time or even digital banners, why not invest or partner with an early stage startup who's developing a technology that can provide exponential value to your user base and get in early so that, we used to say, what if Kodak had acquired Instagram? What if Ford had been the ones to incubate Uber? There's opportunities for these big brands to capitalize and leverage early stage technologies if they're just aware of it and they just place some calculated bets and take a few risks. So Evolution was started with that goal in mind. So I worked with companies like Nestle and Anheuser-Busch and Dell and Dr. Pepper to help them better navigate the startup ecosystem, specifically focusing on very early stage, so bootstrap, seed, or maybe Series A funded startups, and find the ones that were most meaningful to their consumer base and their business and help them work together by creating pilots and experiments and test programs that ultimately lead to larger partnerships or investment. And we called it Evolution with an infinity sign, but obviously there's no infinity sign on the keyboard. The closest thing to it is an 8. and it really just backfired. An awful, a very difficult name to pronounce that caused a lot of people a lot of stress. But you live and you learn.
Right. On your very first job, how did you get it? Did they recruit you, or did you? How did you identify them as the one you wanted to work?
Oh my gosh! So going back now, it was old-fashioned submitting a resume to like a monster.com, but specifically, it was the first year that agencies were creating specific digital arms. So really around, this is 2005, agencies, the idea of having a full team that did nothing but digital strategy and digital buying was foreign. And so during my internship at BBDO, I started to spend a little time with the digital folks inside BBDO. So when my internship ended and it was time for me to find a real job, I started to seek out these new digital departments. So it was one of the first job postings for the digital department at Carat. And when I started, there was about 8 of us. And when I left, there was probably 100.
Wow.
So I got in really early. And honestly, my guess is that most people at that time were still more interested in being on the TV team and being on the print team where all the money was flowing, because digital, no one was spending any money on banners or anything at that point, really. And so I think I was probably one of the only people who said, yeah, I'll come join the digital team. And they took me.
Nice. How did you get your first clients there at Evolution? Had you been interacting with them previously, or were they just brand new?
No, it came from relationships. So we reached out. It was Anheuser-Busch and Kraft Foods. And actually my business partner had worked with them in his past. He also comes from the agency world. So we really went to people who knew us and trusted us and said, you know what, I think what you're doing sounds a little crazy, but a little interesting, and I trust you enough to give it a go. So, they gave us a very small test, but we did a great job, and both of those accounts, blossomed into bigger relationships for us.
Are you still doing Evolution?
I'm not. So really, and this kind of starts to lead into how I ended up at Quirky, successfully ran Evolution with some amazing brands, and it was a healthy business for 6 years. And during my 6th year, I got pregnant with my first child, and I was really planning for maternity leave. At the same time, over the last couple of years at Evolution, while most of the work we did started off being in the software space, we started to get more involved with hardware. And specifically, we had 1 or 2 clients who were looking for hardware solutions, so products to transform the office space, pet products, pet toys. And so this was my first time dabbling in really innovative product and electronics and hardware technologies, and I loved it. I'd never done it before, and I really found myself wanting to spend all my time working on those accounts. So now that interest had really been developing of mine, and I, like I said, I got pregnant with my first child, and so it was time for me to kind of wrap up the business with a nice bow to function without me while I went on maternity leave. And at that same time, I was speaking with Quirky, was following the history and the progress of the business since coming under new management. And it really was the perfect fit because Evolution could function without me, as it had been for several months. And my co-founder is an amazing operator, so he was able to kind of keep the business up and running without me. And when I came back from maternity leave, it was, really good timing to start a new venture that allowed me to pursue my interest in more physical products and invention.
Oh, okay. So you're still connected to Evolution, but you're just not hands-on?
No, I'm out of the business. So it's my co-founder continues to run the business, and we're still practically related. We've grown so close, but I spend all my time on Quirky these days.
Well, I would imagine it seems like it's at least a full-time job. But
and then some, yes.
Well, how did that start off? How did you know about Quirky? Did you just find it one day, or were you involved with Quirky before?
I was. So I was a user. I was on Quirky because I fancy myself an entrepreneur and an amateur inventor. So I've made a couple funny products of my own at my house out of clay, and I've pursued 1 or 2 of my products over the past decade. They never went anywhere because I have absolutely no skills when it comes to 3D printing or industrial design or mechanical engineering or even product design. I have product ideas all the time. And so really when Quirky was launched in 2009, probably around 2010, I heard about the company and I became a user. I wouldn't say I was a power user. I was working at the agency. I was young and enjoying New York, so I wasn't, putting hundreds of inventions on Quirky as some of our community members today are. But I certainly was a Quirky user. I attended one of their weekly live evaluation sessions, and I just thought the vision and the mission and what they had built was unlike anything I had ever seen, filled a massive gap in the market. And I loved spending time on the website. So I really was a fan of the company, first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. I when I first discovered Quirky, I was pretty blown away. I mean, a lot of people talk something, but Quirky was walking it.
Yep.
For all the people listening, okay, here it is. What is Quirky?
So Quirky is a community-led invention platform that brings the everyday ideas of people like you and me to life in the form of real products. And the way Quirky works is that anybody with an idea can come onto quirky.com, submit that idea, tap into the community to collaborate with them to enhance that idea. So work with other community members on things like features or design or renders. Then have that idea evaluated by Quirky and our manufacturing partners. If we select that idea, we'll go ahead and make it. We'll manufacture it. We'll distribute it. We'll get it on store shelves like Bed Bath & Beyond and Target and Home Depot. And every time one of those, anytime your invention sells, Quirky will pay you and every one of the community members who collaborated and helped you with that invention a royalty in perpetuity.
And how did you wind up as the president of Quirky?
So really what, my experience has been working with major brands, helping them with innovation, whether it's commercial innovation or at Evolution, more product-focused innovation. And the new focus of Quirky since the change of ownership in 2016 has been to move away from a manufacturing business and into a licensing model. So just a bit of history, when Quirky was founded and for the first 5 years of Quirky's existence, they manufactured all the products themselves. So they selected which products they should create, and then they did all of the design, development, sourcing, manufacturing, packaging, distribution, all on their own. And this is what ultimately was probably the key component that led to the company's bankruptcy. If you can imagine, it's very difficult to source and develop products efficiently and with economies of scale when you're doing it cross-category and cross-industry. So if you're making pet products, but also auto parts, but then you're making kitchen gadgets, but then you're making office supplies, it's pretty much impossible. No one does that, right? Maybe Amazon does, but it's very rare that you find a brand that is going to source and manufacture all of their own items across all of those different industries, because it's impossible. You really need economies of scale in order to do that. And so what we've done now is pivot the business model so that we don't actually do the sourcing and manufacturing ourselves. Instead, we bring on manufacturing and licensees, and manufacturing partners and licensees who know their markets, who are experts in sourcing and manufacturing products at an efficient price, who do tons of market research every year to understand what's on the roadmap, what's on the trends, what do consumers want. And by working with these manufacturing partners and licensees, we're able to bring more products to market and more successful products to market because we're able to source and price those at a number that's going to move volume and see velocity at the shelf. And so why, you ask why me and why president, why am I leading this new initiative? It's because of my experience working with big brands and manufacturers. So in this new business model, we offer Fortune 500 brands and manufacturers a product pipeline of innovation. And we're developing a solution set that says, let Quirky help you with your R&D. We know what products people wish existed because they're inventing them on our platform every day. We get thousands of inventions every month. And these are products that people want to buy because they're solutions to problems that exist today, but which no one else is solving. So how do you package up all of the data and all of the products that can be incredibly valuable to big brands and manufacturers? And how do you create a conduit between those two worlds That's what I'm really good at. That's what I did at Evolution for 6 years. I know the struggles that big brands face. I know the speed at which they move, that they're looking to accelerate. I understand how they go about making consumer-based and insight-based decisions about the products and the marketing that they bring to market. So really, I'm to continue to evolve and enhance Quirky in a way that makes all of the products and all of the amazing ideas that people are submitting on the platform have the best chance possible to make it to products and ultimately get to shelf.
I get that you have a great resume for being the president. I just wondered how Quirky came back. I know you had quite a number of users before Quirky went bankrupt. How did the Quirky bankruptcy work, and how did it all come back? I mean, I'm great.
I get that. Sure. So 2015, Quirky went bankrupt. The community at that point was over 1 million strong, so over 1 million active community members. They had already brought over 150 products to market, had paid the community over $10 million in royalties, so had really built an amazing, powerful, massive platform of data and assets and community, built something tremendous, but unfortunately had a broken business model that led to a bankruptcy. So once the company went bankrupt, it was put up for auction, and a group of private investors came in and purchased it on auction. Those private investors come from a background of manufacturing and supply, and they licensing. So they're really experts in their field, the manufacturing and the licensing business. And they then sought me out based on my experience working with big brands, knowing that the future of the business really lay in these big brand and large manufacturer partnerships. So the community, this is really what's amazing about the Quirky story, and what made me want to assume this leadership position is that, sure, some of the community members, when it went bankrupt, didn't bother coming back to Quirky.com because why come visit Quirky? It went bankrupt. But hundreds of thousands of them stayed and continued to submit inventions, even while the new investors and, some very early foundational work had to be laid. Even while Quirky was kind of laying there dormant following the bankruptcy, the site was still live, and the community members kept inventing and kept submitting inventions because there's no place else out there for them. They can't go to Kickstarter and Indiegogo because they have to raise the funds and manufacture it themselves, and that's not what they want to do. They don't want to quit their day jobs. They don't want to get into the manufacturing or distribution business. They just have great ideas or great product sketches. Some of them probably went to the Invent Helps and the Edison Nations, but again, they're not offering the same community and collaboration and opportunity to have another organization offer you a turnkey methodology for getting your product from idea to market. So there really was no other platform for them to go to. So they stayed and they continued to talk to each other and they continued to invent. And when I saw that, I said, you know what? Not only was this a brilliant vision and mission that, the founder, Ben Kaufman, laid out, but the community that he created are still there and they're passionate. And, I say, I want to bring invention back to the people. Like, they deserve a Quirky. And so it was really my North Star and inspiring for me to see this community. And it also, again, it gave me the confidence that, I can do this. Like, we're not even starting from a point of 0 community members. We're starting with some really passionate, albeit pissed off. They were angry that the site went bankrupt. And we had to do a lot to cultivate those relationships. And we continue to try to build their trust and work with them. But ultimately, that is, for me, what helped when I was approached, what helped me say, you know what, I'm going to assume this rather risky and certainly really difficult. There's a lot of other easier jobs I could go take than trying to bring a company back from bankruptcy. But I wanted to do it because I believe in the vision and I was inspired by the community that, wouldn't quit.
And now it's time for a commercial break. The Invention Stories podcast is brought to you by the Socket Saver. Do the plugs fall out of your wall sockets? The Socket Saver is an easy, safe, and effective solution. No repairs necessary, no circuit breakers involved, no electrical knowledge or mechanical skills required. Socket Savers are inexpensive, efficient, and portable. For more information, please visit www.socketsaver.com. I would like to take this time to talk to you about the guest book on the InventionStories.com website. where we invite you to share up to 100 words your thoughts about inventions, inventionstories.com, or the Invention Stories podcast, and from time to time we'll read them on the show. And this one comes to us from Beth Kuhl. It's Kuehl from greatplate.net. And she says, "My husband and I have a blended family with 6 kids, and movie nights left always a mess, spilled drinks and snacks everywhere. We knew there had to be a better way. When we couldn't find what we needed, we drew up the Great Plate and made it a reality. A plate that holds your drink and makes meals and snacks easier. No more spills and messes, great for any age and any event. Kids and adults too." I'd like to thank Beth for participating in the guest book, and like I said, from time to time we'll read them, so we invite you, our listeners, to share. That's the guest book at www.inventionstories.com. And now let's get back to the interview. I noticed the royalty rate that you pay the quirky inventors has changed since you've come back. Why?
So first, we did have to implement a new royalty rate. So as I mentioned previously, when Quirky was manufacturing all their own products direct, they could offer a higher percentage of every sale because they were doing it all themselves. In the new licensing model, we take our revenue as a license and a royalty payment from the products that our manufacturers bring to market. And then we take some of that royalty that we earn and we pay it back with the community. So in a nutshell, our total pie of earnings per product is smaller. So we can't, whereas old Quirky would have said, oh, you can earn 20, 30%. Now today it's 1.5 or 3%. However, we strongly believe that we will make it up in volume. So sure, you can have 20% of net sales of a product that sells 5,000 units, or would you rather have 1.5% of a product that sells 200,000 units? So our new licensing model affords us that scale by working with manufacturers who are selling to the biggest retailers and e-commerce platforms globally. But because we're operating on a licensing model that we now split with the community, the total royalty percentage is smaller.
Most companies try to identify and improve their business model while operating, and you've been able to fully examine Quirky's strengths and weaknesses during bankruptcy. And so you get a better opportunity to go forward. Was that the plan from the start there?
It was really, listen, I am humbled by the opportunity to pick up where, the original Quirky left off. And we have no intention of, don't fix it if it ain't broken. So keep what worked and get rid of what didn't, which was essentially the manufacturing element of the business model. Now, we made lots of other small optimizations and tweaks, and some big, some small, but the core of Quirky is still intact. We just want to make it something that is a sustainable business and something that ultimately is going to pay more royalties to more inventors. That is our goal. We measure our success and how many inventors did we pay royalties to this week or this month. And everything we do is aimed at increasing that number.
No, what I was saying, and I just wanted to make the point that a lot of companies, especially with egos or their mindsets, are very resistant to change their beliefs and what they're doing, especially if it's like their core principle or whatever. But, you had this really great opportunity that came out of going bankrupt. Like, it ends up being a good thing almost, it's in a weird way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you have to take a hard look, and sometimes that hard look is forced upon you in a bankruptcy. And, we are a new team. So this is a whole new group of people, a whole group of fans of Quirky and experts in our fields that came on to undertake this challenge. So it's also the ability to have a fresh perspective. So we weren't working with the original, we weren't part of the original Quirky team. And there's parts that make that difficult in not knowing every nook and cranny of the company's history. But I think there's a lot more benefits than detriments to being new to the business than being old, and that you can approach it from a completely new perspective. It also doesn't hurt that I was a user and I was a fan, so I was kind of part of their journey just from the outside. So it's helpful to always keep the consumer experience and the user experience front and center, because I was, and still am, one of those users.
Like I said, I think one of the people I admire the most is Ben Kaufman, and what he did for Quirky. And how is he viewed there at Quirky? Is he got a big picture of him on the wall, or do you try to say, move on, or what?
Yeah, I think, listen, we are all, like I said, humbled by the opportunity to pursue Ben's vision, and he's been nothing but supportive to us, but he's got his own thing going on right now, and I think he is a powerhouse and will continue to be groundbreaking different industries all the time. So he's really focused on what he's doing, and he's always offered and is available and supportive for everything we're doing. But we kind of are heads down and our real focus, and if we've got a picture of anyone on the wall, it's the community members. And we want them to be our guiding light. And so even in this recent website relaunch of making some major updates to the platform, it all came from feedback from the community. And we create the new experiences and we test them with the community. And we post them as soon as we think of something new. We say, hey guys, we're thinking of doing it this way. What do you think? And they'll go, that's awful. It won't work. Here's why. We hate it, or they say we love it, or they say it would work if you did this or that. So they are really the ones who get us out of bed every morning and who keep us legit and who keep us honest and tell us what we need to hear. And, we don't have a framed picture of them up yet, but after this, I might go make one.
Right on. Okay, the website says that I'm seeing the first phase of a multi-phase rollout. I guess you had all the time in the world if you wanted. Why not do everything before relaunching the website?
Oh, gosh. Well, for one, that the multi-phase, there's no end to the phases. So that's the first reason. We will continue to iterate the site always. There's no end date. So we kind of had to put a stake in the ground and say, let's show that there's new life and that Quirky is continuing to evolve. And so what we wanted to do was get the foundation in place and make some major updates to the site that reflected the new invention evaluation process, which had to be changed based on the fact that we now need to involve our manufacturing partners. So whereas previously Quirky had Thursday sessions where they would all come together, and as a group, the team at Quirky would decide which products go to market. And, that was a small team, and they did have some partners, and they were working with some amazing companies like GE and Mattel who would join them sometimes at these events and pick the products, and it was a really unbelievable, fun experience. It wasn't realistic for the new business model where we have, 10, 20 manufacturers who are looking for new products all the time. So, we had to create a new rolling evaluation process and put in place a curation methodology on the part of the Quirky team. And we needed the platform to reflect an intake of inventions that made that process efficient and effective and communicated out to the invention community, this is how it works, and also get the information that we need from them. And also there just hadn't been a website update in, over a year and a half because the company had been bankrupt. So we wanted to put a stake in the ground and say, let's make some major changes that reflect the new business model, get it live. The community, will honor our commitment to show the community that we're working hard to improve the site that they love so much. But then we know that they're going to continue to have feedback for us. And we know that we constantly have to keep improving ourselves. So we decided, let's go with what we have, and then we'll continue to roll out in phases, honestly, for the rest of the company's existence.
What is new? What is new to Quirky now? Is it still that you have $10 and an idea and twice a month or the top two invention ideas get picked? Or
So there's Quirky's free. We don't charge anybody anything ever. So anyone can always submit an invention. Oh my gosh, there's a lot that's different. But I think the main components are, one, we have more partners and manufacturing partners on board than ever before. And we launched invention challenges, and we're kind of constantly scouting for new products to bring to market. And I think we're bringing more products to market than ever before at a faster speed. So we have 40 products in development right now, all by different manufacturing partners. So we don't have to use our own resources. Our manufacturing partners are the one who are completing the last mile of mechanical engineering and prototyping and tooling to bring those products to market. I mentioned the evaluation process is different. So we're constantly looking for ideas. It's not kind of once a week or twice a month where we do these evaluation sessions. We're always looking at the ideas that come in on a rolling basis to find ones that might be right for any number of our manufacturing partners. Let's see what else. I mentioned we just launched an invention challenge with Ace Hardware all around inventing for hurricane recovery. We're going to continue to roll out multiple invention challenges every month to inspire the community to invent products that fall in specific categories or around specific trends that our manufacturing partners are extra hungry for. So when you participate in these invention challenges, you have a greater chance of having your invention selected for production because they represent areas of focus. So that's why we're really surfacing them. We've also updated the entire Quirky dashboard. So it's now easier to search and navigate through all the inventions on the platform to find inventions that you want to collaborate on. So even if you don't have an idea, Quirky can be a place for you because you can help other people with their ideas. Maybe you're really great at coming up with pitches, or maybe you're an industrial designer or you love doing product sketches, even if you don't have any of your own. So we've tried to create a dashboard that's more user-friendly that allows people to find inventions that need their help based on their skill set, or based on the newest inventions, or based on the invention challenges. So those are just some of the biggest elements I think that people will find if they're familiar with the old Quirky or new when they come to the site today.
Will you be on TV? Will there be wasn't there a TV show before? I know I watched it. So.
There was a reality show. So we don't have any plans for a reality show yet, but we did just announce a big partnership with the Home Shopping Network. So you're going to be seeing a lot more Quirky and Quirky inventors and their products on air on Home Shopping Network, which we think is a really fantastic partnership and channel so that we can help our inventors drive sales and ultimately earn more royalties. So we're very excited about that.
I did want to ask you because I'm a big fan of green and green technologies. In the marketplace, there's more of a just like something that would sell a lot. What do you see on the market? Is there a strong incentive for, I don't know, solar-powered windows or something? Or is that just out of your skill set? Or
No, absolutely. No, you're definitely hitting on a big trend we're seeing in the consumer product space. So it's green. It's about using sustainable materials. It's about solar. So what we've seen is that those inventions which are integrating sustainable and green components, whether it's the materials and the textiles that they use are being more sustainable, or that it's a charging device but it uses solar, are absolutely more interesting to our manufacturing partners than more traditional non-sustainable materials that are completely ignoring any kind of green trends in the market. So while to date we haven't launched any specific green or sustainable invention challenges, it's definitely on our roadmap. So you will definitely see one in probably the next 6 months. And in the meantime, anytime there's an invention challenge, or really for any of the products that are getting submitted, I think, and I would say if you want to stack the chips in your favor, think about the trends like green, like sustainable materials that are taking place in and around you and among millennials, among desired consumer targets. And if you can build any of those trends into your product, then you're going to have a greater chance of that product being selected for production.
even though that you haven't really picked those in the past?
It's different to say, I want a green product. That's very difficult because you might get a green pet toy and you might get a green car and you might get a sustainable refrigerator and you might get, a recycled wood desk. And that's very difficult because there's a lot more considerations that need to be taken and factors that go into determining whether a product gets selected. What has happened and what will continue to happen is when a manufacturer is looking for like a storage solution. So right now we have an invention challenge for storage. If you come up with a storage solution that is sustainable or that is green, but it fits the manufacturer's parameters of being a storage solution for small spaces, we are seeing those inventions get selected. So it's more that we haven't themed a challenge or gone out and said, hey, give us your best green products. But we're looking for green components in all of the inventions that come in.
It really does seem, after listening to you, that you're trying to invent smarter. Because before it seemed like it was more of a popularity contest, and now it seems like it has to also fit with the manufacturer's vision then. Is that correct?
Yeah, we believe so. We believe this is a more realistic and a safer bet to, like I said, meet our goal, which is help inventors cash out more royalties.
Are you in the same location there in New York City?
We are a block away. It's kind of very random. We are in a different office space because obviously we're a much smaller team. It's, Quirky at its height, I believe, was over 200 people. We're a small, scrappy team of less than 30 right now who are all working together to, rebuild this company.
And you like being in New York City? It seems like there's pros and cons to that. Did you consider going somewhere else?
So I think as Quirky, we love New York. We were made in New York. We want to support the New York inventor ecosystem, and I don't think we'll ever leave because the city itself is incredibly inspiring. And if there's ever a city where you need all sorts of crazy inventions because we live these compact lives where we stuff ourselves in these tiny apartments and we struggle every day getting on the subway and riding city bikes, and it's New York. So I think it's the kind of a hotbed of innovation and invention. Me personally, as a mom now and growing a family with a dog, and New York's tough because I live in a tiny little box in Brooklyn and I pay an astronomical rent. So, personally, I wouldn't mind if we made Quirky, Florida, and I got to surf all day or go out for a surfing lunch break. But I don't think that's in the cards in the near future. So that'll just have to be my own personal pipe dream.
Sounds like a good pipe dream. I know that you have phases that you're doing as a rollout. Do you have like a 5-year plan for Quirky? What would you like to see down the road? What is like the ultimate goal? Or do you just take it one by one?
We're definitely taking it one by one, but we do have a very clear vision and roadmap where we want to take the business, which ultimately is to be launching more products than ever before and see that royalty rate and the royalties paid out to inventors reach a new benchmark. And so if you think, Quirky was able to release 150 products from the company's inception to the bankruptcy, so from 2009 to 2015, so about 6 years, they were able to launch 150 products. In 5 years, we want to be launching more than 150 products per year. So we believe we can be doing 150, 200, 250 products per year when we have a strong network of manufacturers across the 100 categories that we have.
Sounds great.
It's a tall order, but I think we can do it.
It's always good to have good goals and sights and keep you focused. I want to thank you, Gina, for allowing me this time to interview you, and I look forward to posting and sharing this interview on the Invention Stories podcast. I had one last question I wanted to ask you, and say somebody's just an inventor somewhere, and maybe they don't even know about Quirky. What should they know? What advice would you give them?
Sure. So I would say if you are an inventor or just someone with a great product idea, but you don't know where to get started, come to Quirky.com. Come check out the website, browse through kind of the frequently asked questions, jump on our forum. So we have an amazing, amazing community forum where every day thousands of inventors are answering each other's questions, are posting new topics, are helping each other navigate the website. So, we try to make it as easy as possible, but inventing can be daunting. So I'd say come check out the website, jump on the community forum, and post an idea, or don't even, and just go collaborate on someone else's idea. So you can create an account, and you can get to your dashboard, and you can just go into Needs My Help, which is a section of other people's ideas that are open for collaboration. So if it feels a bit intimidating to come on and submit your own idea to start, you can get started by browsing others' ideas and helping them with those ideas. And then when you're ready, you can submit your own idea. And I'd say even if you never thought of yourself as an inventor, but you were just one of those people who said, you know what, I was driving to work and I spilled my coffee on my lap and I came up with this idea for a new type of coffee mug that will never spill in the car. And that's as far as you took it. You just had this spark of inspiration in the car or the shower. Come to Quirky and put that idea out there. You don't need to do anything else but answer a few questions about your idea. You don't need to sketch it. You don't need to render it. You don't need to know all the details of how it works. Quirky is still a place for creative people who have a spark of an idea. This is a place for you to come see if maybe one day you end up with a $100,000 or $1 million check in the mail for that idea.
You've been listening to episode 36 of the Invention Stories podcast, our interview with Gina Waldhorn, the president of Quirky. And I want to thank Gina for being our guest today. For more information, please visit www.quirky.com. The Invention Stories podcast has been sponsored by The Socket Saver. Does the plug fall out of your wall socket while vacuuming, drying your hair, using a power tool, or recharging your electronic devices? The Socket Saver is an easy, safe, and effective solution. Please visit www.socketsaver.com. Thank you very much for listening today, and please tell a friend.